The risks are simply too great. These are the words of the judge who denied Ghislaine Maxwell bail. She will spend the next year in jail. Her next court date, the 12th of July 2021. The combination of the seriousness of the crimes, the potential length of the sentence, the strength of the government's case at this stage, the defendant's foreign connections and the defendant's substantial financial resources all create both the motive and opportunity to flee. Judge Alison J. Nathan. Ghislaine Maxwell, the once girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein and daughter of Robert Maxwell, has pleaded not guilty to charges of recruiting and grooming girls as young as 14. Going into a little more detail in the reason why she was denied bail, Ghislaine Maxwell purchased property in New Hampshire. She did so under the pseudonym Jen Marshall. The reason she gave was to avoid detection from the press and the public. However, when the FBI raided her property, she hid in a back room and they had to force entry to the house. Upon finding Mrs. Maxwell, they discovered a mobile phone wrapped in tin foil. She had mistakenly thought it would protect her phone from being tracked. She clearly hasn't watched Breaking Bad or any myriad of other shows where they use burners to avoid detection, so no street smarts there.
Bitch.
This all amounts to her trying to avoid detection from the government rather than the press and the public. Along with her considerable wealth and French citizenship, in France they do not extradite citizens to the United States, it puts her in the flight risk category and likely to flee. She is reported to be on suicide watch at the federal jail in Brooklyn, where she will be kept in solitary confinement with the lights on, 24 hours a day. This will take its toll psychologically on her, and as the screws tighten and the walls feel like they're coming in, I'm sure the names will start to flow. Prince Andrew. And there will be talk of plea deals come 14th of July. That's assuming she makes it until then. This poses the question, after the suspicious circumstances in which Jeffrey Epstein died, is jail the safest place for her? Let's look at her indictment. There is a lot of repetition, so I've only included victim 1 and the perjury counts. The charges set forth herein stem from the role of Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, in the sexual exploitation and abuse of multiple minor girls by Jeffrey Epstein. In particular, from at least or in about 1984 up to and including at least in or about 1997, Maxwell assisted, facilitated and contributed to Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of minor girls by, among other things, helping Epstein to recruit, groom and ultimately abuse victims, known to Maxwell and Epstein, to be under the age of 18. The victims were as young as 14 years old when they were groomed and abused by Maxwell and Epstein, both of whom knew that certain victims were in fact under the age of 18. As part and in furtherance of their scheme to abuse minor victims, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, and Jeffrey Epstein enticed and caused minor victims to travel to Epstein's residence in different states, which Maxwell knew and intended would result in their grooming for and subjection to sexual abuse. Moreover, in an effort to conceal her crimes, Maxwell repeatedly lied when questioned about her conduct, including in relation to some of the minor victims described herein, when providing testimony under oath in 2016. Beginning in at least 1994, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, enticed and groomed multiple minor girls to engage in sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein through a variety of means and methods, including but not limited to the following. Maxwell first attempted to befriend some of Epstein's minor victims prior to their abuse, including by asking the victims about their lives, their schools and their families. Maxwell and Epstein would spend time building friendships with minor victims by, for example, taking minor victims to the movies or shopping. Some of these outings would involve Maxwell and Epstein spending time together with a minor victim, or some would involve Maxwell or Epstein spending time alone with a minor victim. Having developed a rapport with a victim, Maxwell would try to normalise sexual abuse for a minor victim by, among other things, discussing sexual topics, undressing in front of the victim, being present when a minor victim was undressing and or being present for sex acts involving the minor victim and Epstein. Maxwell's presence during minor victims' interactions with Epstein, including interactions where the minor victim was undressed or that involved sex acts with Epstein, helped put the victim at ease because an adult woman was present. For example, in some instances, Maxwell would massage Epstein in front of a minor victim, In other instances, Maxwell encouraged minor victims to provide massages to Epstein, including sexualized massages during which a minor victim would be fully or partially nude. Many of those massages resulted in Epstein sexually abusing the minor victims. In addition, Epstein offered to help some minor victims by paying for travel and/or educational opportunities, and Maxwell encouraged certain victims to accept Epstein's assistance. As a result, victims were made to feel indebted and believed that Maxwell and Epstein were trying to help them. Through this process, Maxwell and Epstein enticed victims to engage in sexual activity with Epstein. In some instances, Maxwell was present for and participated in the sexual abuse of minor victims. Some such incidents occurred in the context of massages, which developed into sexual encounters. Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, facilitated Jeffrey Epstein's access to minor victims, knowing that he had a sexual preference for underage girls and that he intended to engage in sexual activity with those victims. Epstein's resulting abuse of minor victims included, among other things, touching a victim's breasts, touching a victim's genitals, placing a sex toy such as a vibrator on a victim's genitals. Victim 1 was approximately 14 years old. Maxwell subsequently interacted with minor victim 1 on multiple occasions at Epstein's residence, knowing that victim 1 was under the age of 18 at the time. During these interactions, which took place between approximately 1994 and 1997, Maxwell groomed minor victim 1 to engage in sexual acts with Epstein through multiple means. First, Maxwell and Epstein attempted to befriend minor victim 1, taking her to the movies and on shopping trips. Maxwell also asked minor victim 1 about school, her classes, her family, and other aspects of her life. Maxwell then sought to normalise inappropriate and abusive conduct by, among other things, undressing in front of minor victim 1. Within the first year after Maxwell and Epstein met minor victim 1, Epstein began sexually abusing minor victim 1. Maxwell was present and involved in some of this abuse. In particular, Maxwell involved minor victim 1 in group sexualised massage of Epstein. During those group sexualised massages, Maxwell and/or minor victim 1 would engage in sex acts with Epstein. Epstein and Maxwell both encouraged minor victim 1 to travel to Epstein's residence in both New York and Florida. As a result, minor victim 1 was sexually abused by Epstein in both New York and Florida. Minor victim 1 was enticed to travel across state lines for the purpose of sexual encounters with Epstein. And Maxwell was aware that Epstein engaged in sexual activity with minor victim 1 after minor victim 1 travelled to Epstein's properties, including in the context of a sexualised massage. In and around 2016, in the context of a deposition as part of a civil litigation, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, repeatedly provided false and perjurious statements under oath regarding, among other subjects, her role in facilitating the abuse of minor victims by Jeffrey Epstein, including some of the specific events and acts of abuse detailed above. Count 5, the perjury part. The grand jury further charges 20. The allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through to 8 of this indictment are repeated and re-alleged as if fully set forth within. On and about April the 22nd, 2016, in the Southern District of New York, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, having taken an oath to testify truthfully in a deposition in connection with a case then pending before the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York under docket number 15, Civ 7344, knowingly made false material declarations, to wit, Maxwell gave the following underlined false testimony. Question to Ghislaine Maxwell. Did Jeffrey Epstein have a scheme to recruit underage girls for sexual massage? If you know. Answer by Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't know what you're talking about. Next question to Ghislaine Maxwell. List all the people under the age of 18 that you interacted with at any of Jeffrey Epstein's properties. Answer by Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm not aware of anybody that I interacted with other than, obviously, the plaintiff, who was 17 at this point. And there's a further charge of perjury where it's alleged she gave false testimony with the question, Were you aware of the presence of sex toys or devices used in sexual activities in Mr. Epstein's Palm Beach house? Ghislaine Maxwell answers, no, not that I recall. Next question to Ghislaine Maxwell. Do you know whether Mr. Epstein possessed sex toys or devices used in sexual activities? Answer by Ghislaine Maxwell, no. Question to Ghislaine Maxwell. Other than yourself and the blonde and brunette that you have identified as having been involved in three-way sexual activities, with whom did Mr. Epstein have sexual activities? Answer by Ghislaine Maxwell. I wasn't aware that he was having sexual activities with anyone when I was with him other than myself. Question to Ghislaine Maxwell. I want to be sure that I'm clear. Is it your testimony that in the 1990s and 2000s you were not aware that Mr. Epstein was having sexual activities with anyone other than yourself and the blonde and brunette on those few occasions when they were involved with you? Answer by Ghislaine Maxwell. This is my testimony, that is correct. Question to Ghislaine Maxwell. Is it your testimony that you've never given anybody a massage? Answer by Ghislaine Maxwell. I have not given anyone a massage. Question to Ghislaine Maxwell. You never gave Mr. Epstein a massage. Is that your testimony? Answer by Ghislaine Maxwell. That is my testimony. Question to Ghislaine Maxwell. You never gave minor victim 2 a massage. Is your testimony? Answer by Ghislaine Maxwell. I never gave minor victim 2 a massage. Virginia Roberts, the main accuser of Maxwell, was allowed to listen in to the hearing. She said she could hear a British woman shouting and wailing, "Why is this happening to me? Why, oh why?" A whole year spent with the lights on, 24 hours in solitary confinement, that does funny things to a person. It'll be interesting to see how long before she cracks. So what are your thoughts? Please like and subscribe, share the video, it will help feed the algorithm and hopefully I'll get some more subscribers and I can carry on doing this and grow. Nou, het kan nu iets na niet overschaf meer nieuws schaf. Dat is nog opzicht maar ja, na swahe maar voor wijs if je de verder stap je al het. Ja, speciaal